Hello, beautiful people. Hello. We are here for day 3 of Reconnection, and I'm so excited. Welcome if you're joining live or if you're watching the replay. Welcome. I'm so excited. I'm so grateful that you're here as well. Today is going to be another big conversation about reconnecting with your mind and your beliefs. Before we get into that, I'd love to know how you're finding Reconnection so far, what your biggest takeaways have been so far, if there's been anything kind of just mind-blowing for you, or things that were just a good reminder. I'd love to know. Drop it in the comments. And yeah, we can all learn from each other as well. Everyone has different things that land at different times. And so, you might watch this again in a month's time and you might take in more from it. You might take in different things because different things will land at different times depending on where you are in your journey, in your life, in your healing, all of that. So, reconnecting to your mind. I want to just mention here the difference between thoughts, mindset, and beliefs. So essentially, beliefs are just thoughts that have been repeated time after time after time until they become a core belief, until it becomes this thing that you just automatically feel like you know. Your mindset is the overarching kind of umbrella there. It encompasses your beliefs and your thoughts. So your thoughts are more of the immediate, the short term, and the beliefs are kind of like the ground, like the concrete things that have developed over time. So when I say thoughts, mindset, beliefs, they basically all mean the same thing. So wonder who here feels like sometimes they're in a bit of a cycle, like the same kind of problems presents itself to you in your life, maybe in different circumstances at various stages of your life. This could be, for example, food. The restrict and binge cycle is a very common cycle. The all or nothing cycle. It could be movement. It could be that you have this pattern of really intense motivation for movement followed by a period of absolutely no motivation, a lack of motivation, and it switches between the two. It's like a cycle. Let me know if this has been your experience. Or it could be in relationships. It could not be food or health or anything at all. It could be a relationship that you think of. You seem to date the same kind of people, and you seem to have the same kind of troubles, struggles, challenges in every relationship that you're in. It could be in your work. So let me know if you feel like there's just been patterns, cycles in your life with the same kind of problem, but in different circumstances at different times of your life. I am in a different setting right now as well. I just realized that. It was raining like crazy this morning in Bali, so I was like, oh, I don't really want to get on my scooter and ride in the rain. So hence I'm in my home space today. Nonetheless, I'll give an example of myself going through this repeated cycle pattern problem. So I have so many examples, and I was trying to think of which one I would use today. Um, Mine would probably, the one that I want to share today is probably having anxiety and depression. So I've had anxiety and depression. I had it for about 10 years of my life. And I realize now that I'm mostly healed all of that, barely have any symptoms of anxiety and depression anymore. I realized that when I did have a really deep bout of anxiety and depression, panic attacks and just like can't even get out of my bed, it was when I was living a life that was not aligned to my soul. So often that was when that was when I was in high school, and um, I've always been a free spirit, but of course, my parents being migrant parents, typical Asian migrant parents, they, want me to do well in school, and everything was about studying and tutoring and education. Whereas, I wanted to explore the world and have new experiences and do this and that. And so I felt very caged. I felt very in a box, and I was severely depressed in when I was like 15, even though I didn't know what depression was. And then again, when I was about 20, I was at university, just going through the motions, just um, going to uni and that kind of thing, and not really understanding like what my purpose was. And I felt really stuck again, and I fell into another bout of severe depression. Another time after that was, interestingly, when I took a year of leave of absence in between my undergrad and my masters, and I went traveling around the whole world, became a dive master, a dive guide, a scuba diving guide. Lived on an island for 6 months. I just let my soul run free, and interestingly, I did not have anxiety and depression during that time at all. And then when I came back home and finished my master's, I was severely depressed throughout my whole master's as well, because it was 2 years of doing placement in an institution at the hospital where everything's very rigid and structured, and I felt again like I was in a box. So now, having done a lot of healing, I see that when I'm stuck in a box, I'm not living my free spirit that's true to my soul, and I feel depressed and anxious. And so now, here I am in Bali living my best life. And I feel free. I feel like my spirit, my soul is free. And also, I've done a lot of trauma healing and all of those things. So, yeah, I feel like my anxiety and depression is gone, really. There's bits and pieces of times where sometimes it might creep up, but for the most part, I feel like I'm free of it. So that was a really long-winded story of just how a cycle was repeated in my life, and I believe and I'm going to get a little bit spiritual here. I believe that the universe puts these same kind of problems in different scenarios to see if we've learned the lesson. And if we haven't learned the lesson, we'll go on to repeat that same pattern, that same problem, until we learn the lesson. Until we learn the lesson and break free and do what is truly aligned to our soul, then the universe will continue to give us that lesson to learn. And then when we learn it, the universe sometimes will test us to make sure that we still remember the lesson. But eventually, it becomes so much quicker. You realize the lesson so much quicker, and you're able to shift and take the path that is right for you more quickly. You're able to shift your mindset, you're able to shift your beliefs more quickly every time once you've learned the lesson, so that you can live and take the path of the life that you truly love, that is aligned with your soul. So that is what we are really talking about today. I know we get real deep like so quickly. But this is the work. This is the work. This is how you're going to make the changes in your life so that you can be healthier, make healthier choices for yourself, so that you can heal your PCOS, but also so you can heal your mind and your soul as well, so that you can create a life that you wake up and love and get excited about living every day, rather than just living and allowing things to happen to you. There's a saying, there's a spiritual teaching that's the saying is, nothing is ever happening to you, everything is always happening for you in your highest good. And for me, that is so empowering, because whenever we think, why is this happening to me? There is a lesson there to learn. And if we do the work to learn the lesson, then we can level up and stop experiencing that same problem and live a life that is more in flow, that is more aligned with our soul. So, here's the thing about your mind and your thoughts. Not all of your thoughts are true. Not all of your thoughts are true. Let that sink in for a moment. What does that mean to you? What does that bring up in you? Pop it in the comments. I'd love to know. This is something that I learned when I first went to therapy, which was actually really helpful. And it was just anxiety management, but it was really helpful. And it stuck with me until today, clearly. So we have so many thoughts in our minds, right? So many thoughts from all the information that we're absorbing throughout the day, and our mind is processing it, and we have these thoughts. And sometimes our thoughts can just be the thought, and then we move on. Or sometimes our minds can play and spiral, and we have this whole thing where we take a situation and we just overthink it and then come up with the worst case scenario. And it's like, oh, someone told me that it's going to rain today. And then we thought, oh, it's going to rain today. That means that I can't go out and do my laundry. And it also means that I have to ride my bike in the rain. And that might mean that I'm going to slip and fall. And that means I'm going to get into a motorbike crash. And oh my gosh, I'm feeling anxious now. Right? Just spiraling thoughts before it even happens. That's anxiety, right? Anxiety is overthinking about the future, and depression is overthinking about the past rather than being in the present moment. None of that stuff has happened yet my mind, the powerful mind, is so creative, is so imaginative, that it'll create all these stories and making me stressed, making you stressed before anything has even happened. And we know that stress, that cortisol, that adrenaline in our body, when it's constantly pumping, it's not good for our body. It's not good for our PCOS. It's not good for our heart. It's not good for our brain. So can you remember that not all thoughts are true? Our minds are so powerful. And if we acknowledge and honor its power, and we use it to our advantage, we use it to create mindsets and beliefs and thoughts that are positive, that are helpful, that are beneficial, anything is possible. But if we don't use it to our advantage, if you allow your mind to spiral and run and be anxious and be depressed and think about the worst case scenarios and think about the negative things and think about cynical things, well, that is what will manifest in your life. So are you going to harness the power of your mind? Are you going to take radical responsibility of your mind? The good news is your mind is plastic. No, I don't mean Mean Girls, bitchy plastic. I mean, your mind has neuroplasticity. It's a scientific term that describes how our minds, our thoughts, our patterns can change no matter how old you are. Our minds are plastic, it's malleable. So even if you've been set in this thought pattern, in this belief pattern for a long, long, long time, with work, you can change that thought pattern. You can change the neural pathways. But the thing is, it takes practice. It takes consistency. It takes repetition. So it's not just, oh, I'm going to decide that I'm going to be more kind and positive to myself one day, and then that happens. It's practicing every time that a not so positive, not so kind thought comes up. You notice it and you shift it. And every time you shift it, that is changing your brain's neural pathway. Isn't that amazing? I'm just thinking about if I want to mention more about neuroplasticity. So I do want to mention it is, for me, I guess it depends on what your values are, but I think it's super important to constantly be learning new things, whether that's a skill or a hobby or anything like a language, dancing, creating art, drawing, whatever it is, throughout your whole life, just continuing to learn new things, because that's what helps us, our brains, be neuroplastic. If we stop learning, our brains will continue to set in itself, and it's really hard to change it. So that's why doing this work early, doing this work as soon as you can, doing the mindset work constantly is so important. All beliefs can be replaced. So that was the science. Neuroplasticity is the science side of things. I want to come into a more maybe like a bit more of a visualization kind of thing. So if you feel if you feel like it, if you feel comfortable, maybe gently closing down your eyes, getting nice and comfortable in your seat. You can just gaze down if that feels more comfortable for you. And just get 5 to 10% more comfortable, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe a little bit of movement, shaking out the shoulders, just to relax a little bit more. And I want you to bring your awareness to your mind, your head space, even the space just above the head. And I invite you to visualize a garden, your mind garden. This mind garden hasn't been attended to for a while, so it's a bit overgrown. There's lots of weed, lots of wildness. And these weeds are the unhelpful, the limiting beliefs, the judgment, the restriction, the guilt, the shame, the beliefs that you're not good enough, the beliefs that you need to be perfect. And these weeds, they can be taken out. And I invite you to visualize yourself uprooting the weeds. And as you uproot them, you can see their long, deep roots. They've been planted a long time ago. And so some of them are a little bit more difficult to get out. You have to spend a little bit more time wriggling it out so you can get it all. But eventually you pull it out. And just visualize yourself picking out all the weeds from your mind's garden. Maybe leaving the flowers that are scattered around there. And once you've gotten rid of all the weeds, you've got a fresh batch of healthy soil ready to be planted in, ready to plant new seeds full of all the most beautiful flowers. And so you start planting the seeds, seeds of kindness, seeds of compassion, seeds of love. And you can plant whatever other seeds that you want in your mind's garden. And once you're done with planting the seeds, be sure to nurture the seeds with water, with fertilizer. Just taking a mental note to continue to nurture your mind's garden with water so that these seeds can sprout and blossom into beautiful flowers. And every day when you check in on your mind's garden, you can notice any weeds that grow around your mind's garden or in your mind's garden, and just pick them out as soon as you see them. Because it's easier to pick them out as you go, one bit of weed at a time, rather than doing a big overhaul. Just take a moment here to appreciate this beautiful, fresh mind garden filled with beautiful flowers that are ready to grow. And when you're ready, letting go of that visualization and coming back to your body. And gently blinking, open your eyes to rejoin us in the room. Beautiful. So I want to give you we'll do the examples in a bit and we can jump into it. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the weeds that you may want to be mindful of in your mind's garden and what you may want to replace them with. So, of course, we're going to be talking about food. Food and the dieting mindset and intuitive eating. So, I want you to have a think about your relationship with food right now. How is your relationship with food? Are you still dieting, restricting, cutting out certain foods? You have a fear of certain foods because you've been told that they are bad or unhealthy? Do you have an all or nothing mindset, a perfectionistic mindset? I need to eat perfectly or there is no point at all? I need to spend an hour at the gym or there's no point in going? Do you have a compensatory mindset? I ate that chocolate, so now I need to do 20 minutes of running. Or a dichotomous mindset. This food is bad, white rice and white bread is bad, and brown rice and brown bread is good. Or carbs are bad, protein is good. Do you have any of these mindsets? And it's completely okay if you do. This is so, so, so common. And I want you to just feel into your body. How do these mindsets feel in your body? Our mind and our body and our soul, they're all connected. So even though today is about your mind and your beliefs, you'll still feel it in your body and your soul. So how do these beliefs around food, these mindsets around food, make you feel in your body? Does it feel light? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel dense? Or does it feel freeing? Does it feel fearful? Or does it feel loving? You're more intuitive than you realize. So, these mindsets, where do they come from? Where did you develop the belief that carbs are good and carbs are bad and protein is good, or this is bad and that is good, or I need to do this perfectly, or there's no point at all? Where did these beliefs come from? Was it external from you, or is it internal? These beliefs, these practices around food can feel a little bit like a safety mechanism. They can feel safe, and that's why it can be so hard to let go of them. It feels safe to have a list of foods that tells you you can eat this, you can't eat this. Because then when you go and eat, you can refer to this list of foods, and you'll be like, yes, this is correct, I should eat this, and this is not correct, I shouldn't eat that. I can't eat that. So it feels safe. It feels like you have a safety net. But this is a false sense of security. If we come back to the window of tolerance that we talked about yesterday in Reconnection Day 2, connecting to your emotions, your window of tolerance. So this is your window of tolerance here. Above it, so here you're in your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest, where you're feeling calm, collected, in control. Above it is your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight. And below it is your dorsal, which is your freeze. These practices, such as restrictive dieting, such as the all or nothing mindset, such as perfectionism, good or bad food, dichotomous thinking, they give you a false sense of security. They give you a false sense of a bigger window of tolerance. But in reality, these restrictive dieting practices are your sympathetic nervous system. It's the hypervigilance, the need for control, the feeling anxious to get this perfect or I might die. And so you cling on to these food rules because it makes you feel this sense of safety. Let me know if this resonates. It makes you feel that sense of safety at the time, but then underlying, you actually feel more anxious and guilty and ashamed. The collateral. So what we want to do there is regulate your nervous system. You being out of your window of tolerance, and your window of tolerance changes from moment to moment, right? But if you're feeling more safe, more grounded in yourself, you have a wider window of tolerance. And being outside of your window of tolerance, being in the sympathetic and the dorsal nervous system, means that your nervous system is dysregulated. So what we need to do here to help you shift your mindset, shift your beliefs in a way that you feel safe, in a way where when we're removing the dieting, the restriction, the all or nothing mindset, the perfectionism mindset, you still feel safe. You don't feel like you're going to die. Because that's what it is. When your body is in fight or flight or freeze, your nervous system thinks that you're going to die. I am full serious. And that's completely valid. It is completely valid that you feel fear or unsafe if you think about letting go of dieting, restriction, and just eating intuitively. It makes perfect sense. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can change it. So, what we need to do to change that is help you feel more safe, help you widen your window of tolerance. And you can do that by a few ways. The first is the outside in. So, whenever you take an action that is different from what you currently believe, and you're okay, you're safe, it creates cognitive dissonance. So what that means is the difference between what you believe and what is happening. So, for example, if you're like, I need to I, it could be eating. I'm not allowed to eat a banana because eating a banana, it has too much sugar. It's going to raise my blood sugar levels, and I'm going to be unhealthy. But then you eat a banana and you feel fine. In fact, you feel energized. You can then take that as evidence to challenge your belief. Right? And every time you do something to challenge your belief, and you show yourself that you're actually safe, that helps you to widen your window of tolerance. You can also do it from the inside out. So when a thought comes up like bananas are bad because it has too much sugar, just noticing that thought. You can maybe distance yourself from that thought by using the words, I'm having the thought that bananas are bad because they have too much sugar. I'm having a thought that helps to create that distance. In fact, maybe just close your eyes and notice the difference here. If you think bananas are bad because they have too much sugar, and notice how that feels in your body. And then think, I'm having the thought that bananas are bad and they have too much sugar. And notice how that feels in your body. Let me know if you feel a difference. So from the inside out, you can notice when these beliefs, when these thoughts come up, distance yourself from it and challenge it. So that could look like when the thought bananas are bad because it has too much sugar, you might distance yourself from the thought. You might say, I'm having the thought that bananas are bad and because it has too much sugar. And then you can recreate that thought. You can shift that thought. You might think, all foods fit. Bananas are super nutritious. They have lots of vitamins and minerals. They do have sugar, but they also have fiber, which is great for my gut health. And so you're challenging that belief, that automatic belief. You're taking out that weed and planting in a new seed. And every time you do that, it gets easier and easier. And you stop, or you might still have those thoughts, but then you can notice it. You can catch yourself and correct yourself quicker. And eventually you start thinking, oh, a banana, so nutritious. Yes, I feel like a banana right now. Let's have a banana without having that automatic fear restrictive response. Let me know if this resonates with you. So just notice when your all or nothing mindset comes up. I have to do this perfectly. And usually the language that you might pick up is, I have to, I must, I should. That's the sympathetic nervous system language. That's the fight or flight, the hypervigilance. And then the dorsal language is, I can't, I shouldn't, I couldn't, I'm not allowed to. That's the dorsal. If you missed yesterday's training, definitely listen to it because I explained the window of tolerance a little bit more. But the dorsal is about making yourself small. The freeze response. I can't. I can't eat chocolate. That's bad for me. And instead, the parasympathetic response is, I can. I get to. I choose to. Having the choice. Choice is a huge part of all of this, and particularly your nervous system. Often trauma happens in a scenario where you feel like you don't have a choice, you feel like you're stuck, or you have to fight, flight, or freeze to survive, rather than having the choice, rather than Responding, you feel like you have to react. Responding is where you can take a step back and take a breath and decide what you want to do. So that's what this all is about. It's about giving yourself choice rather than automatically being like, oh, this is bad. I shouldn't have that. I'm not allowed to have that. I can't have that. It's, oh, there's a chocolate there. How do I feel right now? Do I feel like that would be nourishing for me right now? Would that be nourishing for my body or my mind? Does my body or my mind or my soul need nourishment? And you make a choice. You say, yeah, actually, I'm going to have that chocolate right now because that would be nourishing for my taste buds. Or you can be like, no, actually, right now, I feel like my body needs some, real sustenance. It needs something a little bit more satisfying. So I'm going to have a burger instead first, and then maybe I'll have the chocolate later. Right? So there's the choice. It's not I have to or I can't. It's, what do I want right now? Right? Choice gives flexibility. That's why with intuitive eating, there's no rules. There's no foods that you can or can't eat. It's about what is my body feeling right now? What would be the most nourishing for my body? It's also intuitive eating. It's also not, I'm just going to eat whatever I want whenever I want. I mean, there is an element of that, but it's also how can I make the best choices for what my body needs right now? So it's more than that. It's more than that. But there is the element of choice, of freedom, of flexibility. So that's food. The second mindset I want to talk about is a growth mindset. So I want you to think about when you're making changes to your habits, such as you want to start eating more intuitively. And then, you're doing well for a bit, and then you eat something that makes you not feel very good. And you're like, oh, crap. Why did I do that? Why did I eat that Macca's burger? I knew that would make me feel like crap, and now I feel like crap, and maybe I shouldn't eat intuitively. Maybe I should just stick to restriction because then I won't feel like crap. Let me know. This is a compassionate space here. There is no judgment. I'm sure you've had that experience. I've definitely had that experience for myself. So, does your mind automatically go to guilt and shame and judgment and fear? Why did you do that? You're so stupid. You're so bad for eating that Macca's burger, McDonald's burger, for people not in Australia. Now I'm going to feel like crap for ages and I'm going to gain weight because I ate Macca's burger. That's the guilt and the shame and the judgment and the fear. Can you challenge those? Can you notice when that comes up? And choose to be kind and compassionate to yourself. Choose to have a growth mindset. Everyone makes mistakes. That is the human experience. Everyone makes mistakes, especially when you're trying something new, right? When you think about driving a car, at first you make a lot of mistakes because it's new. You haven't done it many times before. But then as you practice and practice more, you start to master the skill of driving. You don't even think about it anymore. It's your subconscious is taking over. You start to like multitask, changing the radio station as you turn right on the road and you check out that really cool house on the side. So can you find compassion when you make mistakes and develop a growth mindset, knowing that mistakes are just lessons, failures are just lessons. And sometimes, most of the time, we need to make the mistakes to learn the lesson for it to really be ingrained in you. When you're doing something well, or like when someone doesn't give you feedback and someone's like, oh yeah, you're doing really great, but you don't really learn anything from it, do you? But when someone's like, oh, you're doing really great, but um, when you when you turn left, you could have indicated a little bit earlier so that the cars behind you know that you're going to turn. So you're going to brake and turn left so that they don't what's the word for it? They don't rear end you. And so you learn. Next time you're like, okay, I'm turning left. I need to indicate a little bit earlier so I don't have an accident. So you indicate a little bit earlier, and you get it right, and you don't have a car crash. Right? Sometimes we need to make mistakes and feel uncomfortable to learn the lesson, for the lesson to really hone in on you. So going back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, the lesson, or the problem, the challenge that comes up repeatedly in your life, have you learnt that lesson? That problem is going to continue to come up in your life until you learn that lesson. And once you learn that lesson, you will not forget, especially if it was a big one. And to learn the lesson, sometimes you need to go inward and reflect. Whenever I have had a few things happen, not so positive things happen, such as my last Friday. If you followed me on social medias, you would have heard about the whole bed bug situation, and then missing a healing session, missing yoga. It was the whole thing. And I spent that weekend to reflect on what is the lesson here. I could just be like, oh, well, life just sucks and why is this all happening to me? And meh. But because I truly believe that there is a lesson in every struggle that you have. Whenever anything bad, when anything happens to me that makes me feel not great, that feels unaligned, that feels inconvenient, uncomfortable, I go inward and I reflect on what is the lesson here? What is the message that the universe is trying to tell me? How can I take radical responsibility of my experience and learn the lesson so next time when I'm presented with that challenge, I know what to do and how to make the situation better and how to have a better experience. But that I I only found the lessons when I took time out for myself and reflected. If I just went out and distracted myself, went drinking with friends, went like just hung out with other people and didn't reflect, I wouldn't have found the lesson. So, developing a growth mindset, finding the lesson in every situation that doesn't go your way so that you can grow and do better. And lastly, the short term and long term mindset. So, I wonder if this resonates with you. You've you've started eating healthier and exercising, and you're feeling good. You keep doing it for about a week, but 2 weeks later, you jump on the scales and you notice that there's no change. You haven't lost weight. And you're like, I've been trying so hard. It's been so much effort to try to keep up with my exercise routine and eat well and be thinking about it all the time. And there hasn't been any progress. Why? What is the point? What is the point in trying so hard? And then you give up. And you forget that actually eating well and moving your body regularly improves your health. Full stop. And when you do that every day, it improves your health even more every time you do it. So rather than thinking that health is a goal, that you'll be healthy when you achieve a weight or when you look a certain way or when your symptoms are gone, can you look at health as something that you're working on every day? Something that you're working on every day, and every time you work on it, you improve it. Every time you eat well and move your body, something in your body changes. You have physiological changes that build up and build up and build up and improve your overall health over time. And so 20 years down the track, you're still eating well and moving your body. In 30 years, in 40 years, in 50 years down the track, you're still eating well and moving your body because you still care about your health, because you still want to improve your health, because you still want to prioritize your health. Health is not something that you can achieve, it is something that you work on every single day. So, can you hold that long term energy and the short term with the short term action? Can you let go, detach from the goal, the result, and find pleasure in the process? Rather than being like, I'll be more confident, I'll have more fun, I'll do more things once I'm healthier, once I lose weight, once I look a certain way. Can you have fun and be more confident and do all the things every day? Because if you're only doing these things to achieve a certain goal, well, of course, you're going to lose motivation when you don't see changes in your weight, when you don't reach that goal. Of course, you're going to lose motivation to move your body if the scales don't change. But I know you know that your health is so much more than your weight. That is why you're here. You would not be in my community if you didn't know that. You know that your health is so much more than your weight. So can you care for yourself, love yourself, accept yourself, appreciate yourself, nourish yourself every day, regardless of what happens to your weight, regardless of if your PCOS symptoms improve or not? Can you hold that long-term energy in the day-to-day actions? So you have the choice to notice when these unhelpful, these limiting beliefs come up, these destructive beliefs come up. Bring it into your consciousness. Notice it. Be like, I'm having the thought that I need to eat perfectly, or there's no point. And thank that thought for protecting you and serving a purpose in the past, but knowing that it no longer serves you and you can let it go. You choose to let it go. You choose to show yourself kindness and compassion. You choose a healthier, a growth path. You can replace the belief rather than, I need to eat perfectly to be healthy. Replacing it with, every nutritious meal I have improves my PCOS and my health. I don't need to be perfect. Progress over perfection. And then validate these new beliefs with your actions, with evidence from your actions. Or will you continue to allow these sub and unconscious beliefs to run? Allow perfectionism and judgment to run in your mind. Beat yourself up when you binge eat or when you make a mistake. Validate your beliefs, your perfectionism. See, I didn't eat perfectly and now I'm binge eating. And then continue with your same patterns. So it is up to you to choose whether you want to make the change or not. There is no right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. But what you choose changes your experience. Thank you so much for joining me, whether you're on the live or in the replay. I'm so, so grateful for your attention, for you being here and wanting to do the work for you being here and wanting to step into a more positive, a more loving, a more kind and compassionate mindset. Because when you give yourself those things, you give it to others as well. When you heal yourself, you heal others as well. If you have any thoughts, insights, things that really landed for you, I'd love, love, love to hear it in the comments. Drop in. I'm also thinking about doing a Q&A, a live Q&A as well. So let me know if you're interested in that. And tomorrow is day 4, our last day, and it will be about reconnecting with your soul. Very, very, very excited about that one. You know, I love talking about the soul and connecting and aligning with the soul and living a soul-led life. So that will be another big one. Big conversations this week. Thank you so much. I will see you around. Have a wonderful day.